everyone, it's me again. This is going to be a much different video from what I usually post. Well, I am and I plan to remain like a channel dedicated to writing and my writing journey. I kind of just wanted to talk about something a little more, I don't want to say it's more meaningful to me than my writing, but it is extremely meaningful and important to me. If you are only here for the writing bits, I won't blame you if you don't watch this video, so don't feel pressured or anything. I just thought it might be something that could give my viewers a little more insights into me personally, I guess. If you're new here, drawn in by just the topic of this particular video, my name is April K. I am a self-published author. I currently have a young adult trilogy available on Amazon. If you are a fan of urban fantasy, with magic and shapeshifters that turn into gargoyles, you might want to check it out. Here on my channel, I like to post writing vlogs and writing tags and just in general ramble about my writing and my process, and I'm kind of documenting my journey and my hopeful intentions to become traditionally published one day. But today, I kind of just wanted to talk about my experience as an autistic adult woman. So for those who don't know me, I'm going to be 32 this year, and I am what most people would refer to as high functioning. And like a lot of actually autistic people, I'm not really a big fan of that label, because it's people see the results of my functioning, but they don't see how difficult it is for me to function, if that makes sense. Functioning is extremely stressful, and some days it really kills me, but people don't see that side of it. They just see what I'm presenting to them. So to them, sure, maybe I look high functioning, but that's because they don't know what goes into how I function. So yeah, like I said, I am 31. I work full-time. I work a job that pays me a livable wage. I'm certainly not rich by any means, but I'm not in danger of losing the roof over my head, so it's a livable wage, and I live in an apartment with my boyfriend of 5 years. I will say, up until a few years ago, I still lived with my mom and had never left home, and up until a few years ago, I didn't even drive. But for now, for all intents and purposes, on the outside I look like a normal, functioning adult. But I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I'm not. I feel like I need to say, when I say normal, I am not saying that people with autism are abnormal, or that we're, freaks, or aliens, or there's something wrong with us. And I'm not saying that people who don't have autism, there's something wrong with them either. It's just, it's easier for me to refer to them as normal, and I'm not going to use words in this video like neurodivergent or neurotypical, because I'm going to be honest with you, I am still learning myself about verbiage and the wide world, of autism and neurodivergence and all of that. And I'm going to link resources down below, and one of them is going to be this, I think it's a blog post from 2014 that talks all about neurodiversity, and it's been helpful for me, but like I said, I'm still learning. I'm not going to use those terms, and I feel like those terms kind of alienate a lot of people who don't know about autism, so I don't want to alienate them. I want to use terms that are easy for everyone to understand, and normal just works for me. Autism is one of those things that I feel like it's getting talked about a lot more these days than it used to, but people still don't really know a lot about it. Even doctors and specialists and so-called experts in the field don't know that much about it. The brain is a funny thing, and autism is a huge spectrum. If there is a word bigger than spectrum, I would probably use that, because it seems like more and more every day, more about autism is learned, at least in the autistic community. This kind of lack of knowledge, it's not anyone's fault, because autism isn't a black and white thing. It's not something that's really scientific and you can actually study it and stuff. Autism can't really be studied in such a medical kind of way, so I'm not sure how to go about changing the perception of autism and what doctors and specialists know about autism, but I do know that there's still a lot to learn, and there probably will be for a long time. The mainstream portrayals of autistic people certainly don't help the perception that people have. I feel like a lot of the time, it's always in movies and shows and stuff, it's always like a little boy, and, you know, maybe he's quiet and kind of weird, but he has these hyperfixations on like math or trains or dinosaurs or something, and when he talks, you know, he talks like a little university professor, and he says random, sometimes hurtful things at the wrong moment because, you know, he's autistic, so. Or I've also seen instances of like grown male characters who are just these kind of cold and unemotional, like just flat kind of people, and they're presented as like super logical and super smart, but also they're very distant and they can't connect. And I'm not saying that these portrayals aren't rooted in some kind of fact, because obviously, like I said, autism is a spectrum, and there are people that are like that. There certainly are. From personal experience, it is hard to relate to people, but just because it's hard to relate to people, it doesn't mean every single autistic person who feels that way is going to act unemotional and unfeeling. So these mainstream portrayals, particularly of men and boys, they're actually really harmful because they give people this expectation of what an autistic person is like. And I really, personally myself, do not meet that expectation. I was really shy and quiet when I was a kid, and I did have obsessions, you know, like I do agree that, you know, the hyperfixation thing is very true. I did have obsessions and hyperfixations, and I liked to stim a lot when I was a kid. I don't really do that a lot now. And for people who don't know, stimming can be like physical motions. It's just something that a lot of autistic people do without thinking about it, when they're happy or when they're upset, or it's just the body's way of reacting to an emotion. Like when I was younger, I did like to flap my arms a lot, which I still kind of do sometimes. Mostly now I like to rock back and forth. It's just a thing. It's when I'm content, I like to rock back and forth. But when I was a kid, I would flap, I would rock. I did this thing that I remember. I was listening to music in class, like we had like somebody playing a guitar for my first grade class or something, and it just felt good to me, so I was just like spinning my head back and forth like that, and it was just nice. That was, you know, I was having a blast doing that, and I actually got stopped by my teacher, which, you know, I think about a lot because I'm like, how dare she? But obviously, like I said, I was a kid, and back then people definitely did not know a lot about autism, so, you know, I can't blame her. But yeah, so I was like shy and quiet, and I had obsessions, and I'm still shy and quiet and have obsessions, and with my autism, it leads me to take things really literally. It's hard for me sometimes to understand, especially jokes and innuendo. I'm kind of terrible sometimes at discerning a true meaning, and sometimes, a lot of the time, I need something like spelled out to me, because otherwise I can't get it. And another thing that I see a lot in portrayals of autism is people being like computers when it comes to math, and I'm going to be super upfront with you. I failed algebra a million times. I don't understand numbers. It's just something that I can't wrap my mind around it. And beyond that, I was just an average school student, like I said, beyond math. My best class was English, but I got passing grades in most of my other classes. And like when it comes to my emotions, I feel like I am very in touch with my emotions, and I am a very feeling person. And I do feel like I don't convey my emotions as well as I could, but I don't think anyone could ever describe me as distant or unfeeling. I don't think I come across cold the way, you know, that second portrayal is. I don't think that I'm some kind of, you know, distant jerk that I used like my autism to explain away my distant jerkiness, if that makes sense. So I really don't feel like I fit that stereotypical portrayal of either, you know, the little boy or the grown man. There are certain people that when they find out I'm autistic, they kind of treat it like it's this big scary thing that needs to be kept secret and safe.
Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
You know, it's something they think needs to be talked about in private and away from prying eyes. You know, you talk about it in hushed tones and it's, you know, the dirty secret of the family, and people almost have this attitude of like, you know, be careful. Do you really want, you know, this person to know that you're autistic or that person to know that you're autistic? And honestly, yes. Yes, I do. My whole life I thought something was wrong with me, and I just really thought that I was just this giant idiot who just didn't know how to do life the right way. I spent a long time just being completely miserable because I didn't know why I was the way that I was. I don't remember exactly when I was diagnosed. I know I was definitely an adult, I would say between ages 18 and 24. And the reason I can't really remember the exact time that I was diagnosed is because, at least back then, I don't know, honestly I don't know how much things have changed now, but back then it was really, really difficult to find someone who was even willing to talk to me about me possibly having autism. People have this really strange notion that autistic adults just don't exist, you know. I guess if you are an autistic child, you know, you just grow out of it when you hit the age of consent in your state or country, because I don't know what happens to all these autistic children in these people's minds. So it was very hard to find somebody who was willing to work with an adult. Autism is also something that's kind of thought to be like a boys only kind of thing, and, you know, girls mask better. It's just kind of been proven, and I'll try to find some studies and stuff to link below. But autism presents a little differently in girls, but even when it presents the same, girls learn early on how to mask, and it kind of, there's this whole, like, it ties into, like, gender norms and everything. So it was like double trouble for me. I was an adult and I was female, and I was trying to find somebody to help me and possibly diagnose me with autism, so it was really, really hard to find somebody even willing to sit down with me. So yeah, when I was finally diagnosed between the ages of 18 and 24, it was almost like receiving the best news of my life. I felt like I heard, you know, an angelic choir singing, because I finally knew what was wrong with me. I finally had this explanation, and I finally realized that I wasn't stupid. I realized that I wasn't some kind of weird freak who, you know, didn't belong on Earth, basically, like, because I did always feel like, you know, some kind of weird alien. Getting my diagnosis, it was just like I could breathe, because it's okay, I'm not, you know, I'm not wrong. I'm just different. But even after getting my diagnosis, things, you know, they were bumpy, because the doctor that worked with me, you know, he was upfront with me. He wasn't comfortable continuing to work with me because he worked predominantly with children, and he didn't feel like he had the proper know-how to help me. And he gave me some resources. I remember I bought like a book, like a self-help book or something, and he had given me information of somebody who ran like a support group. The only problem was this support group was like miles and miles away, and at the time, not only did I not drive, but I was kind of in a really bad state of depression. I didn't like leaving the house. I was kind of scared leaving the house, and I didn't even like to go and check the mailbox, because I didn't want my neighbors catching the briefest glimpse of me, because like my self-loathing was so deep in me, and I just didn't want to exist as I was. So I had a lot of issues, and so going to this support group miles and miles away, just, it was not feasible for me at the time. But I, fortunately, as a millennial, I did grow up on the internet. We didn't get internet in my house until I was like 16, 17, but I spent a lot of time at the library using the internet there, so I was very well versed on, you know, social media and where you could find people like you, and so I was able to go and connect with people like me, and it was great. I found, you know, whole communities of people my age and older who were so open and upfront about like what their lives had been like before and after their diagnosis, and people are open and about their own, like, you know, quirks and what they do for stimming, and, you know, people make jokes about it and they make comics about it, and I was able to just, I feel like I was able to discover the real me just by interacting with other people like me, and it really made me more comfortable with my diagnosis and more comfortable in my own skin, and I feel like it really set me on the path of accepting myself. I was the perfect target for bullying when I was in school. I was overweight, I had bad skin, so I would get acne a lot. My hair was super oily no matter how much I washed it. So on top of my appearance, I also had my strange, weird behaviors, because not only was I super quiet, but, you know, if I was spoken to, I would often say weird things in return, because these things didn't seem weird to me. I was definitely a pretty easy target, and I can distinctly remember moments, even as far back as, you know, first grade, where I was getting picked on by other kids. I just didn't care back then, weirdly. In elementary school, I didn't care. I was totally fine just existing in my own little world. I had my books, I had my movies, I had little stories that I would imagine in my head that I would eventually, you know, start writing. But in elementary school, didn't faze me, you know. I would be like engrossed in reading and hear kids making fun of me, and I just didn't care. When I got to middle school, though, things started to change. I became kind of obsessed with the judgment of others. I kind of craved just acceptance and validation from other kids, and I just wanted really badly to be normal. I didn't even want to be like a cool kid or popular. I just wanted to kind of fit in and be normal, and people would leave me alone. And then high school hit, and unfortunately, when I got to high school, that feeling of yearning and just craving for acceptance just became so much worse. And suddenly, I wasn't just obsessed with what people thought about me, I was like really obsessed. Sorry, I couldn't think of a bigger word. It became everything to me, how I presented myself, because I just wanted people to not think I was weird and to think that I was, you know, just your average kid, or maybe a little cool, you know. It was awful. I tried everything I could to fit in. Like, the people that I thought were cool, I kind of would mimic them. Not like I was like obnoxiously copying them or anything, but, you know, I would start listening to the same music that, you know, everyone else did. I was trying to find something that I could use to relate to these people so that they might accept me. and it sucked. I was pretty decent at masking. Like, even the people thought I was weird. Like, people that knew me back then never would guess. Like, they're surprised when I tell them I'm autistic, because I was that good at masking the deeper, weirder parts of me. Even despite how decently I masked, nothing I did, like, people didn't care. I didn't fit in. I still got made fun of. And high school was a really rough time for me. My biggest fear when I was younger was just embarrassment, because I felt like I was constantly embarrassing myself with things that I said. And this wasn't high school, but I can think of a very specific example to give you guys of why I thought I was just an idiot when I was younger. So, like, I was in the second grade, and the teacher had some kind of aid, and throughout the class period, the aide would be taking groups of children, like groups of 4 or 5 kids, to the back of the room where, you know, we were discussing some packet of papers while the teacher worked with the rest of the class. It was like a cycle thing in the class. I don't know. I don't remember. I know it's funny what I do remember versus what I don't. But, so my group went back with the aide, and we were essentially supposed to build our own packet of papers, and she had each separate page set up in piles, like on this desk, and then she was at the end of this desk with her stapler. Sorry, it wasn't a desk because it was much longer, it was a table, but she was at the end of the table with her stapler, and we were essentially going to move down the table, make our own packet, and then she would staple it at the end. The way she explained it confused the heck out of me, and it's funny because I wasn't even the one who went first. I had the option to watch the other kids, and I don't know why I just didn't, or maybe I still just didn't get it when they were doing it, but the way she said it, even though it confused me, in my brain I just accepted it. I was like, alright, that's what she wants us to do. The way she described it was, it's so weird. I can't remember not exactly what the words were, but I remember the confusion because she said something about pick up the first piece of paper, move on to the second stack, and then put that under the others. And like I said, I'm not sure where the confusion came in from my brain, but what I understood was not what was supposed to be done. I picked up the first paper, moved on to the second stack, and I picked up the second paper. Now what the aide wanted us to do was put the second paper under the first paper, move on. But because my brain had registered her words very differently, I had the first paper, I picked up the second paper, then I took the first paper and I put it under the second stack on the table. And then I moved on to the third stack, and I picked up the third paper and I put the second paper under the third stack. And I moved on, so on and so forth. And I remember getting to the end of the table, and this poor aide is just looking at me, and her mouth is kind of hanging open in confusion, and she's just looking at me like she can't fathom what's going on, because here I am standing with just a single sheet of paper from the very last stack on the table. I didn't really think anything of it at first because I was like thinking, I did exactly what you asked me to. And I looked at the other students, and they're all just kind of looking at me like, what the heck is wrong with you? And honestly, as embarrassed as I was, at that moment I just thought, oh wow, I'm pretty stupid. And it kind of became this trend. I would just make mistakes due to misunderstandings, and they were never super serious mistakes, just little mistakes that would often result in embarrassing moments. And it was just something I kind of accepted, that I was a moron, that I was just really freaking stupid, and I had self-esteem issues because of my appearance, but I also had these massive self-esteem issues because I thought I was stupid and didn't deserve to kind of be around people who were so much smarter than me, I guess. And it's funny because I do remember, if another student did something stupid, I would register it, but then it would just I didn't relate to that for some reason. I should have thought, oh, he's stupid just like me, maybe I should be his friend, I was like, oh wow, that was stupid, but then it's in my brain I just assumed, okay, that was just one stupid mistake, he's not as stupid as I am, kind of. Yeah, so I just thought I was the dumbest person to ever exist, and that wasn't really good for my self-image. So me getting diagnosed was literally a lifesaver, because it was just, I guess it was the validation that I was looking for. It just wasn't what I expected, because I got diagnosed and I realized, oh, I'm not stupid. My brain just processes things differently. I don't know why the diagnosis was so eye-opening to me, but it was just such a relief to feel like I finally, a puzzle piece clicked into place, which is funny because a puzzle piece is used by a certain foundation that I will get into a little later. But yeah, so I'm not embarrassed or ashamed of being autistic. I don't need to
keep it secret. Keep it safe.
And I'm thrilled to talk about my autism because, I don't know, if it helps to educate non-autistics about something that people still know so little about, and if it helps, other autistics to find comfort and take solace in, or even just know that they aren't alone, I'm not ashamed of my autism. If I wasn't so shy, I would shout it from the rooftops. That's how comfortable I am with it. And that's not to say that I still don't say stupid things. That's not to say I don't still say stupid things. Case in point. I still misunderstand a lot that goes on around me, and I still have all the same issues. I take things too literally, don't understand, innuendo. I'm surprised I like metaphors in my fiction so much because, I don't know, I guess metaphors actually aren't that hard to understand, but I'm getting off track. I still have weird quirks, and I have these routines that I need to adhere to, and if I don't, I might have a meltdown. My meltdowns aren't the way, people would expect, because like I said, with mainstream portrayals, there's this expectation. So when you hear the word meltdown, you imagine, I guess, a little boy just having a screaming tantrum. Maybe he collapses, And that happens. For sure that happens. I've, seen autistic children have meltdowns like that, and it's awful. I feel so terrible for the kids that have to go through that. But my meltdowns are a lot quieter. It's like something shuts down inside of me, and I just stop. I guess I stop caring. I stop operating. To the outside world, I still look like I'm fine. Although I might look mad or pissed off, but inside I've kind of just checked out mentally, and that happens, when I get overwhelmed or stressed out. I do still have these meltdowns, and they happen a lot too when like masking becomes too difficult for me. And I would love to say at this point, as comfortable as I am with my autism, that I don't even bother to mask anymore, but that would be a lie, because I spent so long masking that it's not just something I can turn off. And plus, unfortunately, I still kind of care what people think of me, and we live in a society that, you are still ostracized if you show any kind of weirdness, and so I do mask a lot still, unfortunately. But now that I know that I'm just different, and now that I know what makes me different, I don't beat myself up so much anymore. I still get super embarrassed over things, and there are still moments where I say something stupid, and then 5 years later I'm still thinking about it as I lay in bed, just kind of, thinking, you stupid idiot, you freaking little gremlin, why would you say something like that? Like, I still have moments like that I wish I could go back and change. I still kind of struggle to accept my mistakes and embarrassments, but I do think it's a little easier nowadays, and I think it's because when I say or do something stupid or embarrassing, I picture myself as a little kid. I don't picture the adult me. I picture kid me who, I flipped out when I saw, a cat on the street, and I listened to Aqua's Barbie Girl so much on repeat that now it triggers a fight or flight response in me. I picture that little girl with her little silly obsessions and her Disney movies, and I think I would never beat up on this little girl when she's just living her life and doing her best. So why do I think it's acceptable to beat up on myself now, when I'm still just living my life and doing my best? My autism, unfortunately, does affect my job. Like I said, if I get stressed out, I will just check out and meltdown. And also, something that my autism has kind of given me, which, it's funny, when I was really, really little, my mother had me tested a lot for my hearing because she thought I might have some kind of hearing impairment, but it always came back that, my hearing was basically perfect or whatever. And mostly now I would notice that when I'm on the phone with somebody, I really struggle to understand them, and I'm always asking, what? Sorry, can you repeat that? And I used to get really mad, sorry, I don't know why I said that like that. I used to get really angry with people because I thought they just didn't know how to talk on the phone right. I would think, God, this person is talking with the phone too close to their mouth, or I would think, God, doesn't this person know that they have to speak up? But, no, I looked more into it, and, it's not, I don't have any problem with the volume, it's the processing. I have, an auditory processing issue, and I just struggle to, make sense of what I'm hearing. I'm hearing it fine, I'm just not comprehending it. And it sucks because at my job, I take a lot of phone calls, and I have to relay a lot of information, and it really sucks to just constantly be asking, what? And can you repeat that? And I'm so sorry, what did you say? It gets really embarrassing, and I hate it. I hate talking on the phone, and I've always hated it. I just need to do it for this job, so, I hate it. But yeah, so that's something that I have to deal with every freaking day, and I hate it so much. And the auditory processing issue affects me, outside of phone calls too. I've discovered, if I'm in a crowded place, somebody could be standing right in front of me, talking to me, but if there's a lot of noise going on behind me, and it doesn't even have to be, loud noise, it could just be, 3 people having a conversation, even though I'm hearing this person in front of me perfectly, no issue with their volume, they don't need to speak any louder, they're fine, I'm not understanding anything that they're saying because my brain is trying to process everything that I'm hearing. There's a spot in our apartment hallway that if I'm standing in that spot and the heater is on and blowing, my boyfriend can be like 5 feet away from me and say something. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with his volume. I hear him fine. I just can't understand him because my brain is processing the noise of the heater. And it's really weird that it's like I can't focus my brain on one sound. It's my brain, like my ears take in all the sound and my brain doesn't know how to separate those sounds and make sense of them separately. So that gets a little rough. I feel like every day I have to have my boyfriend repeat himself multiple times because I'm just not processing things that he's saying. And speaking of my boyfriend, I was really nervous to share with him that I was autistic. And, I didn't come right out the gate with it, obviously. But I also didn't want to hide it from him because, as I said, I am very comfortable with my diagnosis. So I think it might have actually been on our kind of second outing, our first official date. I told him, and he was honest with me that he didn't really know much about it, but he was super willing to learn. He asks me questions. I knew right away that I made the right choice in telling him because I was nervous, not because I thought he would be judgmental, but because I was used to other people's judgment. I don't know. But yeah, so he accepted me 110%, and having been able to be so open about it with him has made, it helped make me as comfortable as I am now with it. And, I don't have to hide my meltdowns from him. I don't have to explain strange habits or routines, and I don't have to tone down my many obsessions because he understands I need these obsessions. That's how I function. And we're at a point now where we even can joke about it. Like if I'm remembering some detail about some movie I watched like 10 years ago, and I point it out to him, he just makes a joke about my autism, and I'm like, that's right, autism. Because that's one of my special interests, is just movies in general. I love the act of movie making. I love movie trivia. I don't know, it's strange. So yeah, there's a certain foundation out there that I mentioned in passing earlier. They are called Autism Speaks, and I don't like them. They kind of treat autism as something that's dirty, something that's shameful and wrong, and needs to be fixed. They care more about family members of autistic people than they do of actually autistic people. They often speak over autistic people and don't actually listen to autistic people, and somehow they've become the expert on autistic people. It's kind of like PETA. They might have started with a very good message, for animal rights, but PETA as a company, as a foundation, as whatever they are, they suck. They are not as helpful as they proclaim that they are, and they should not be supported when there are, I'm sure, hundreds of other foundations that could use the support and that aren't harmful in the way that they handle things. So I always compare Autism Speaks and PETA. They are trash. One thing with Autism Speaks, because like I said, they care more about the family members. For example, if there's an autistic child, they're more about supporting the parent. They don't care that this autistic child is going to grow up into an autistic adult and should probably be hearing from other autistic adults how life can be. But it's like Autism Speaks is focused on coddling parents of autistic children, and they want to find a cure because autism is something that should be eradicated and, fixed. And I know I don't speak for all autistic people, but a lot of us, we don't want a cure because that would imply that something is wrong with us and that we don't, that we shouldn't exist unless we can be fixed. I don't know. I know, like I said, I'm high functioning, and I know there are people that are probably struggling a lot more than I am, and I know that life can be really, really hard for some people with autism, but I don't feel like we need to be, fixed. We need people to, be aware of us and accept us and understand that we're capable of everything else that they are, and that we're worthy of love and respect. And I don't know, just because our brains work a little differently doesn't mean that we're animals, you know? Like, it just is not nice the way Autism Speaks operates, and I will try to link resources about them as well down below, because they should not be supported, but because they are the like #1 result for like autism online, people will support them, like PETA. So I'm not an expert on autism, obviously. I don't think anyone is at this point, but feel free to ask questions. I know I can give you an answer, just don't accept it as the answer. Like I said, autism is vastly different for everyone. Our brains all operate differently. Autism is whatever bigger than a spectrum is, you know. We all don't exist in a hive mind, and a good example is, while I don't like the term high functioning, somebody else might have no problem with it. They might even use it to describe themselves. It's kind of similar to the fact that I often use the word queer to describe myself, because sometimes it's just easier than having to explain pansexual to somebody. But for a lot of people, that word has been used to abuse them and to cause serious harm. So a lot of people don't like that word. And so, like with any like marginalized group, you know, like I said, we're not a hive mind. Honestly, it's like with anything else, just be respectful, like, I don't know. And if you don't have autism yourself, don't tell somebody else that says they have it. Don't just start assuming things. I actually went to an ophthalmologist a little while ago, and my chart said that I have autism, and she started going on and on, and she was just listing all of this wrong information about how that's only a little boy's disorder and stuff, and I'm like, no, it's not. So just be respectful and just listen to autistic people, really, like, just listen. This got really, really long, and there's a few parts that I know I struggled to articulate what I was thinking, but if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching this. Thank you for being here with me. It's still really hard for me to put myself out there because of all of my self-esteem issues from growing up. I still am afraid of embarrassing myself in front of people, so when I started vlogging, it was really hard for me, and it's still kind of hard for me, but I want to be here, and I'm really happy to be sharing this with a lot of people because I feel like it's just very personal, and I can, I don't know, be me. I might not have like a huge channel with thousands of subscribers or anything, but I always want to be transparent, and I want to use my platform for good, I guess. I'm proud of myself and my autism because I've kind of come pretty far in my life, even despite it. You know, I didn't have my first romantic relationship till I was like 26, and I didn't get my license until I was almost 30. So I'm definitely a late bloomer, but I'm still blooming, and I'm really proud of myself and how far I've come. So yeah, I won't make like a habit of posting non-writing related videos on this channel. So, you know, if you're here because of this video, or, you know, don't subscribe thinking I'm gonna do more like autistic videos, because, you know, this is pretty much all I can say about it because this is just my experience with autism. And we're gonna go back to our regularly scheduled program now, you know. Got a writing vlog probably this weekend coming up. I don't know, I've been wanting to make this video for a while because a lot of people don't understand where I'm coming from a lot of the time, because obviously, like I said, people don't really know a lot about this. So I just wanted people to get a chance to understand me more and understand people like me more. So yeah, you know, the usual, like and comment down below if you are new here and you are interested in writing vlogs and, you know, stuff like that. Definitely subscribe. But yeah, I feel really good having gotten all this like kind of out. It's like I said, I was never hiding, and it wasn't like it needed to come off my chest. It just feels good to say it. I don't know, I'm really happy. So yeah, like, comment, and subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I'm gonna get this video up on Friday, and then I'm going to film another weekend writing vlog this weekend. So yeah, I will see you all in my next video. Thank you so much for watching.